Senator Ross.
Madam Deputy President, this week is International Bisexual Awareness Week, or Bi Week as it's known. It's an important week for the LGBTIQ+ community, and for me personally, as a proud bisexual woman and a member of this parliament. And I am proud to wear the colours of the Bi flag as a scarf tonight. Bi Week is an opportunity for us to recognise the diversity of Bi+ people within Australia and to celebrate them. It's time to take stock of the incredible contributions that bisexual role models and activists have made to the broader LGBTIQ+ community. It's a time to listen to Bi+ Australians and to elevate their stories, and a time to pay heed to the specific challenges faced by Bi+ people that we must, as a wider community, acknowledge and address. And although bisexuality is commonly represented as an attraction towards cisgender men and women, the term encompasses a broad spectrum of identities and attractions that are trans and gender diverse inclusive. As Bi+ advocate Robin Ox states, bisexuality is the potential to be attracted romantically and/or sexually to people of more than one sex and/or gender, not necessarily at the same time, not necessarily in the same way, and not necessarily to the same degree. For many of us, myself included, bisexuality expresses our capability to love and be attracted to people of many or all genders. However we label ourselves, bisexual, bicurious, pansexual, polysexual, sexuality fluid or queer, we should be proud of this. There's no one way to experience bisexuality or to be Bi+. And I can assure you my own journey as a bisexual person is a reflection of this. For a large part of my adult life, I thought of myself as heterosexual. But yes, a heterosexual who every so often found women attractive too. But I was happily married, so that attraction was irrelevant. I loved my spouse, and that was that. It wasn't until my wife Penny transitioned and I had to reflect on my sexuality in that context that I realised I wasn't a straight woman. I was a bisexual one. I remember one pivotal moment of that realisation. Penny and I were out dancing, and it was before her social transition, when she was only presenting as Penny part-time, or Halfpenny as our children called her. Penny was still worried that if she transitioned, it would destroy our relationship, and that was what she wanted to avoid at all costs. She told me that if that was the case, well then she would put her gender identity back in the box, she would repress it as it had been for most of her life. And as we were dancing that night, however, I realised that not only did I still love Penny, but that I loved her as Penny as a woman. I found her attractive as Penny as a woman, and I realised that I was bisexual. While I was fortunate enough to be able to embrace my sexuality smoothly, seamlessly and proudly, this is not always the case for all Bi+ people. And although we've made great strides in the acceptance and rights of LGBTIQ+ people, in particular with marriage equality finally having achieved last year, harmful stereotypes of bisexuality persist, and there are deep prejudices against people who identify within the Bi+ umbrella. Bisexual erasure or bisexual invisibility is downright pervasive in our society. For example, we are continually made to refute claims that our identities and our sexualities are a phase or that we're indecisive. Bisexuality is not a rest stop on the road to becoming gay or lesbian. It is its own complete identity. After Penny transitioned and we reaffirmed our loving relationship to the world by happily staying together, one of my friends described me as the accidental lesbian. Although humorous and well-meaning, it's not accurate. I'm bisexual. But I think her labelling me as such is typical of the ignorance about and the invisibility of bisexual people. I reflect on my own lack of awareness of bisexuality. I identified as heterosexual right up until Penny's transition, despite experiences of being attracted to women as well as men. But being bisexual wasn't in my field of view then. I was in a monogamous, seemingly heterosexual relationship. Therefore, I was heterosexual. The heteronormativity of our society certainly helped that along. I was able to fit myself into the heterosexual box, which is where normal, ordinary, socially acceptable people were, so why go any further than that? Bisexuals are much less visible than our gay or lesbian counterparts. There are far fewer visible role models for young people exploring their sexuality. And when we're in a monogamous relationship, it can be wrongly assumed that we have chosen a side. And this is diminutive of our identities and amounts to an erasing of our sexuality, sometimes by ignorance, sometimes derisively and dismissively. It's also important to acknowledge that biphobia is experienced more acutely by some bi+ people than others. In particular, trans people and cisgender men cop more abuse for expressing bisexuality, affecting their ability to lead an openly bisexual life. And this is particularly worrying for younger LGBTIQ+ people. In a survey this year of their under 18 listeners, Triple J found that young gay men were twice as likely to come out than bisexual men, and that young women were twice as likely to identify as bisexual than young men. These stats reflect a wider trend in our society. Not only does bisexuality have minimal representation in mainstream media, when it is represented, it is often through depictions of bi+ women. Bi+ trans people and cis men barely get a mention. We need more representation in mainstream media of the full array of bisexuality so that bi+ people can feel accepted and supported to come out, live openly, and not to feel pressure to suppress our sexuality in any way. And we greatly need this because we know that bi-invisibility and biphobia takes a huge toll on our health and well-being. Research has shown again and again that the mental health of bi+ people is significantly poorer than heterosexual, gay or lesbian people. Bisexual people report deep feelings of isolation, anxiety, distress and self-doubt. And we also know that biphobia and bi-erasure lead to discrimination against bisexual people from both heterosexual communities and from gay and lesbian communities. This is not okay and it needs to change. We must continue to challenge the restrictive, narrow ideas of sex and gender rife in our society that prevent us from living openly. So Bisexual Awareness Week is a chance to assert our presence in the LGBTIQ+ community in Australia and in the world, and to demand the rights, respect and services that we need in order for our community to feel safe and included. I encourage my colleagues across the Parliament to make time for and to listen to the bi+ people in your communities. Take the opportunity to understand our experiences and to use your platforms to amplify our voices. Finally, to my bi+ community, I'd like to take the opportunity to say, I see you. I see you even where others don't. I will continue to share our stories, advocate for our rights inside and outside the Parliament. You are amazing, resilient and beautiful. Thank you.